I'm here today, Tyrone Tate from Georgia Prep Sports Academy with Tyrone Poole, former NFL great, 14 years in the NFL. We just wanted to ask a few questions of Tyrone, which we knew would be very helpful, not only for the players here at Georgia Prep Sports Academy, but for anyone who has an interest of how to move or navigate themselves from high school to college into possibly the NFL. And Tyrone, which I'm going to call you Coach Poole because you're a coach as well. Coach, you know, a lot of kids, they just want to know. I mean, they're coming out of high school, but you were undoubtedly undersized. Everybody talk about the undersized. And you took a non-traditional path. I mean, most people would never even think to take that path, especially when you start talking to NFL. They figure they got to go to one of those big elite schools in the state of Georgia or Alabama, Mississippi, Florida, or any of the other 50 states. But with that said, just tell us a little bit about high school. What was the motivation to play football, and you also ran track, but something had to why you play baseball or play tennis or some other sport in high school?
Well, I think growing up in the era that I did grow up in, just physical fitness was like an everyday occurrence. I remember times when we would play stickball, actually playing baseball, but because we didn't actually have a bat, we would actually break off the broomstick handle or whatever we could use to make a bat, and sometimes we would just play with a tennis ball, you know. But the point I'm trying to make is I grew up with guys that we were very active growing up. We would play kickball, we would play dodgeball, we would play football. You know, this light pole is one end zone, this other light pole is the other end zone. You know, we would play in the streets. You know, cars be traveling. You know, we'll say, hey, time out, car coming down the road. Everybody move out the way, let the car go by, then we get back out there and start playing. So I think just the era in which I grew up in, just being competitive, that helped me to develop my athletic skills, playing against older guys. You know, we played tackle football, and you know, I would be, you know, young, playing with a bunch of older guys. So I think the roughing up, you know, kind of made me, as they say, when my time came, I was playing like a man amongst boys, even though I was the same age as those kids. But I just think just growing up in the neighborhood, competitive neighborhood, helped me to pursue sports, and football just happened to be one of those sports that I took on.
Well, a lot of people say it's in your DNA, and not necessarily your DNA, but we just use the analogy it's in your DNA. So we understand when you was in high school, you pretty fast. So was that in your DNA, or was that just running against the older guys, or were you running from something that made you so fast?
Well, I think one of the things you definitely have to have the DNA. I think they say speed is that one gene that actually gets transferred from parent to child. Just like any other gene gets transferred, but they say that speed gene is a dominant gene. So I'm not a scientist, so I just go off what people say. But I think the other thing that probably helped me was, you know, back in the day, when you didn't want someone to ride your bike, they would just jump on your bike and start riding it, and you would have to chase them, and you know, you end up grabbing that back seat and trying to slow them down. So I think I had plenty of opportunities to work on my speed growing up, and probably also helped my speed was whenever I got in trouble. My parents, you know, they come after me trying to, you know, discipline me, and I would run out the house so they couldn't catch me. So I think I worked on my agility, running through and weaving through the house, trying to find that front door so I can get out. But definitely I think, you know, the genetics were there in play, and I just had to do the right things to develop.
Well, you know, and I'm going to just stick with high school for right now. So we realized that you had a situation your senior year. So I'm going to go back to a full season your junior year. I mean, your vision as a football player, because you were a running back in high school. So being a running back, where did that, because you were pretty good. So where did that vision come from? Did somebody teach you, or was it just natural that you was just a natural running back?
Well, I think in high school, just like today, even when I was playing, they try to put the best athletes on offense. So unlike me, I try to say, I'm going to put my best athletes on defense, because if you can't score, you can't win. And I feel like if we create turnovers and we score on defense and we stop you from scoring, then, you know, it favors us. But I think in high school, they put the best athletes on offense. And I did have a little bit of size. I was not small as far as body build. Even when I show people the pictures of myself when I was in LaGrange, I think LaGrange High School, I think they get a newfound perspective of my genetics.
Sure.
But that's not to say that we didn't have a great program in LaGrange High School. I think we had an awesome program at LaGrange High School. There are athletes past and present that have come through that high school that have gone professionally. Sure. In some type of manner. So I guess you could say it's in the water.
Okay.
It's in the water in LaGrange. But I think just being athletic, they putting the best athlete on offense, sure, and they put me at running back, and that's where I played.
Well, you know, you speak about it being in the water. You may cause water sales to go up in LaGrange.
I know, right?
Everybody's going to go out there to see this show. But moving on into college now, they say, you know, things don't happen by coincidence. So you had a little motivation once you got to Fort Valley State. I mean, you start talking about college and your athletic skill, and for you to choose Fort Valley State. How in the world did you end up at Fort Valley State?
Well, actually, I didn't choose Fort Valley State. I think Fort Valley State was an option that was given to me after I had really used up all of my, I guess, options to go into college, meaning I didn't finish my senior year of football. So that kind of left me with a dim aspect on gaining a college scholarship. But I found out later on in my career, once I got drafted, that I did have major universities looking at me. And I had universities as far out as Nebraska, the Cornhuskers looking at me. But once I made that decision to stop playing and quit my senior year, then, you know, nothing was going to happen as far as with a big school. And how I found out that Nebraska was looking at me when I initially got drafted by the Carolina Panthers. It's a tradition that all of the defensive coaches meet the defensive draft pick, and all the offensive coaches meet the offensive draft pick. So there was a linebacker, Kevin Steele. Kevin Steele is with the Auburn Tigers now. He coaches there. And he came up to me, and he told me, he said, "Hey, I remember you when you were in high school. We were actually trying to recruit you." So I'm like, wow, I didn't know that. But what I believe happened was when I didn't finish my senior year and I quit on the team, then, you know, any letter that came in that was directed for me didn't find its way to me.
Sure.
But like I say, thank God that, you know, my steps were already ordered. Sure. So no matter what someone or I myself may have done, sure, to try to throw the train off the track, sure, you know, it was in my destiny not to play football, but football is a vehicle, sure, to help me to do something that God is going to get the glory for on down the road.
Sure, and I didn't mean to get into this part at this juncture, but you say something very important to all of us, and that is God. You know, God is an awesome God, and, you know, it's no doubt that I am thankful to God giving me this opportunity to, and I'm saying to you that hopefully we'll touch someone else's heart. We'll plant a seed somewhere
Yes, sir.
And something good will come out of it. And that being said, you know, certainly God did order your steps. And, you know, sometimes we look at things and say that's a tragedy that this young man doesn't get a chance to fulfill his dream out in high school. But yet, you didn't even play your senior year in high school. Most guys are gloating over the fact that they had this phenomenal senior high school year, and you know they thinking in their mind that they should be going to a big college, and maybe they go to a smaller college, but none of them accomplished what you were able to do at Fort Valley State. So did you go in there with a chip on your shoulder because of what happened as a senior in high school? Was that something that possibly was the best thing that could have happened to you? Because if you look back on your life, you say, you know, these things, that they happened by coincidence, or was it by design? So when you got to Fort Valley State, when you got down on that campus for the first time, did you have a chip on your shoulder saying that, man, I'm going to make the best of this opportunity because I almost lost it?
No, I don't think I had a chip on my shoulder. I think you had a person that wanted to make up for the era that I had created, understanding that I did possess talents, and I just wanted a platform to showcase that talent. And also there's a saying that I heard a guy say, he used. He says, opportunity is sometimes found in opposition. So you just have to look for it. And unfortunately, a lot of us, when we come against opposition, we get so focused on the opponent that we sometimes don't see the door that is right in front of us. Kind of like being on a plane. They tell you to look behind you and in front because you want to find the nearest exit. And so many times in life, people get so focused on what's right in front of them, what's just happening, that they don't, or they fail to look at something in the past that is good that they can use, or what this particular situation, how it can help them in the future. So I do believe that opportunity sometimes is found in opposition. You just have to look for it, and then when you find it, you also have to ask yourself, how can I utilize it to empower myself to be the best that I can be going forward? So I think with my high school situation, and then Fort Valley being a platform for me to continue, I think I was so excited about having an opportunity to continue to play sports that it just, just went into a blessed situation for me. So I think I would have probably done very well whether I had gone to Fort Valley State or University of Georgia, because I definitely believe that God, there's a plan and a purpose for me being here and being on this earth, and I think, the best is yet to come.
Well, you undoubtedly put some light on this whole thing of recruiting, because now we're going to step from Fort Valley into this draft day. So you at this small college, Division II. Now you got guys that go, we're not trying to give a cheap advertisement, but we're going to give them a little advertisement. The University of Georgia, Alabama, you got USC and Florida State, you got Oregon. I mean, you got all these big schools that are, they generating hundreds of millions of dollars just during the football season, because the economics of football, college football, is just unbelievable, especially now with TV rights that are included in all this. It's a lot of hot dogs being sold in these 110,000 seat stadiums. Exactly. But with that said, now I'm thinking the time when you coming out, you going and you draft. Okay, we sitting in a. I'm putting myself in the position of a position coach and the GM, along with the owner of the team. And we sitting there, we talking, we saying, okay, who's the best player that's available? And so, we looking at all these big schools, and we see this one little small school, Fort Valley State. And now I'm also looking at a player that's 5'8", 5'9", 190 pounds. You know what I mean? Hold on now. I got to. I mean, how am I going to convince my peers that this is the guy that we getting ready to spend a first round draft choice on? This is money. This is the money game. This is where the rubber meets the road. So now you talking about, I got to really believe in you. So who on that football team really believed in Tyrone to come to their system, come into their system and help them to ultimately win a Super Bowl? Well, no, it wasn't them, but and I'm saying Carolina Panthers. But ultimately, you went to a team where you did win a Super Bowl. But let me just back up. How did that happen? Do you have an idea how they put themselves on the line, put their job on the line?
I don't think they put their, well, every day, they putting their job on the line because they draft picks that, guys look prototypical.
Yes, sir.
There have been wide receivers that, I can name that tore it up in college.
That's right.
And had the perfect size, speed, but when they got to the pros, they didn't do anything. So
quarterbacks.
I think quarterbacks. You can look at any position, but I think it goes back to good scouting, history. Again, like Darryl Green. Darryl Green played, almost 20 years himself,
Sure
from a small school.
That's right.
Actually, I'm bigger than Darryl. Actually, I'm a little taller than Darryl. When I first met Darryl in 1995, when we played the Washington Redskins, I was at awe because that's who they compared me to when I came out in the NFL. But I think my skills, praise God, my ability to jump, my lateral quickness, speed, straight ahead, linear speed, and based off of what I heard, they said that my intelligence was pretty doggone good as well. Because of course, you take the test that they give you at the combines, and so I had an opportunity to go to the combines. I had an opportunity to go to the Senior Bowl. So that's kind of where I believe I started to separate myself, and I believe that's where scouts and GMs started to believe that, hey, this guy can play on this level, because I went to the Senior Bowl, and the Senior Bowl is where the GMs and coaches and scouts select guys to come there. These are guys that they are looking to draft. That's why you see a high majority of guys that play in the Senior Bowl either get drafted or they get into some NFL camp. And but I think it was during those times, the combines and the Senior Bowl, where I kind of made a name for myself, and GMs, like you said, were willing to put their name on the dotted line and put their careers and whatever on the line, because I showed them in the combines. Absolutely. Where now they can see me against all the other particular corners.
Sure. And
in the Senior Bowl, they can see me go up against the top rated receivers that were coming out for that '95 draft.
Well, it's no doubt that they threw everything in the kitchen sink at you at the Senior Bowl. I mean, because you're right. You're talking about, as we call it, the eyeball test. I'm sure they had receivers that passed that eyeball test that was running like deers at that Senior Bowl. And I'm sure the routes that they were running, their breaks, I mean, just things started speeding up real fast, but you had the speed to keep up. So now you done passed that test. You've been drafted. You on the property of the Carolina Panthers. Mm-hmm. You walk onto their property for the first day. You walk on their property. What's going through your heart? What's going through your mind?
It was a new experience. Years of growing up and watching people like Jerry Rice on television, Deion Sanders on television, and now some of the guys that the Carolina Panthers had brought to the organization because it was 1995 was their inaugural season.
Sure.
So there were some guys that they brought in that got cut from other teams that I've heard their names on television. So, you know, it was kind of like starstruck, you know, so to speak. And also what made it, you know, exciting for me, when I first got to the NFL, I was a Reebok guy.
Okay.
And, you know, Reebok was my sponsor. And, you know, get anything I wanted from Reebok. You know, they had me on billboards, and so it was just a lot of things that I was not used to that were like exciting and sometimes overwhelming. But at the same time, I had fun. I thank God for having, you know, the opportunity. But the game itself was faster. Athletes much bigger, even compared to the Senior Bowl.
Sure.
But like you said, the one thing that I did have that God allowed me to prosper was my speed, my quickness, my ability to jump, my acceleration. I even heard a story where a guy told me not too long ago that the thing he remembered about me, we played on the same team in Carolina. He said that my break was so fast that when I broke on a 90 or I broke on whatever route, that grass would come up out the ground. That's what he actually said.
Sure.
You know, but that just, you know, again shows how explosive, you know, I was. And but overall, it's a great experience. Great experience. Fast paced, but you know, great experience.
Well, I appreciate your time, and as I kind of wind this up, two things I want to make sure that I give you an opportunity to talk about with close down. The first thing is you have a book out, and so this book, for some of our audience here that want to know more about Tyrone Poole, they can clearly go on the internet and YouTube and all this kind of stuff and find out a little bit about you. But this book gets a little bit more personable and give you a little bit more detail. So where can they find this book?
The book is called The Ultimate Success in the Game of Life. You can go to my website, TyronePoole38.com. I tell people to go to my website because you can go and get the book from Amazon, you can get the book from any bookstore. But the reason why I suggest that people go to my website is I found out that when you first write a book, the publishing company gets a high majority of the proceeds.
Sure.
And if you go to my website, all the proceeds come to me. So it enables me to help do other things in the community.
Sure.
So again, the book is called Ultimate Success in the Game of Life. You can go to TyronePoole38.com and purchase your autographed copy and ship it right out to you.
Okay. And that's what I was going to also say. It's not just about the proceeds. It's that he can personalize that book. I buy it directly from you, and you can sign that book directly from me and pass that on to me. So that's the greatest reason to go straight to TyronePoole38.com and order that book. And last but not least, it's unquestionable that you have the faith and you believe in God. So as we leave, certainly, is there something you like to impart from a faith standpoint to your audience? Is it something that kept you going at times when you really needed a pick-me-up and you were all alone? I mean, you're talking about an industry that's not easy to keep a job, let alone you kept a job for 14 years. You kept a job with an average guy, and I don't know whether to say average guy, but they say the average career is only 2.5 years in the NFL, but you avoided for many of those years injuries and you know, all the trappings that the NFL can get you in, and you withstood the test of time. I mean, it's not like you 6'5", 290 pounds, and, you know, all the prototypical size that someone imagines when they close their eyes of a typical football player. So you had to deal with those kind of guys. So from a spiritual standpoint, what would you like to impart on our audience, both young and old, but the young guys coming, both male and female, coming along? What is it that Tyrone Poole want to leave with them from a spiritual standpoint?
But just like it says in the Bible, God looks at the heart and man looks at the outward appearance. And the heart is one thing that you can't measure. There's no measuring tool. There is no weighted whatever to measure someone's heart. And that is the one thing that makes people play bigger than what they are, make people do things bigger than what they are. So I would just tell people to just continue to do everything from your heart. And when you do it from your heart, you're going to get big results. And there are no temptation, trials, or tests that's not coming to us. Because as long as you're in this world, you know, you're going to have problems. And again, it goes back to your heart. And if you have a strong enough heart and your will and you're passionate, then you overcome. You overcome. And like it says, life and death is in the power of the tongue. So I do believe in speaking to yourself. Now, if you're answering your own questions, and you know, we may need to get you committed, but I don't believe there's nothing wrong with speaking and heart that what you're speaking is going to happen. There's a quote that I read by Muhammad Ali, and it says that I'm the greatest, and that's what he called himself. He's the greatest. But it also goes, the second line says, I believed that even when I wasn't that yet. So you got to speak things, and then you got to believe it. Keep speaking it until it becomes reality. So that's what I would leave.
Well, certainly you have, this is a tongue tire for me sometimes. You have Tyrone Tate here, and you have Tyrone Poole here. So it's not like I'm saying the words wrong. This is Tyrone Poole, and I am Tyrone Tate here with Georgia Prep Sports Network, and we certainly appreciate you watching. This is part one of, I'm sure, be a part two, because there's so much more to talk about with Tyrone Poole, but certainly with Coach Poole, his book gives you some of that detail, and I would encourage you to get this book, not just one copy, but all of your youth at your church, at your nonprofit organizations, in your community. You really want to sow a seed into a child's life, male or female. Get this book, because this book has some things in it that is unbelievable. So thank you very much for your time, and certainly thank you, Coach Poole.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.